gentlemen, coming in from the crossing of the Cystic Fibrosis crossing in from Sarasota County. It's Robert Martini. God, I love this man. Look at him go. We got it, brother. Go Martini!
All right, cool. So we're sitting here. We're talking with Robert Martini, who is more, he's known as Martini. We're going to call him Martini through here. You know, they call you Martini. You work in ocean rescue, is that right?
Yes, I've been a ocean beach lifeguard for like 20 years.
Okay, yeah. So let's talk about, we're talking today about, you recently did a tiny little 80-mile paddle, the crossing for, I think they call it now, it used to be called Crossing for a Cure. I think it's called, is it Crossing for Cystic Fibrosis now? I think is the official.
Yes, it's called, it's officially called the Crossing for Cystic Fibrosis now, for CF.
Okay, so it's 80 miles, Bimini to back to the mainland, back to Florida, correct?
Correct, yes, Bimini, Bahamas to Lake Worth Beach, Florida.
Okay, and it's 80 miles, and you paddled that in a surfski this year. Now, and that event is kind of two things. It's I think they label it as an endurance challenge, but it's also a race as well, right? You have the option to race that as well.
Yeah, I think they opened it up to make it more competitive because there's a lot of people that around Florida are very competitive in the lifeguarding world that, have always wanted to do it. So a lot of the lifeguards have done it prone, use a dory boat. And I think I'm the first one I think that's done it with surf ski that I'm aware of. But it was very interesting. You have people that just want to say they did it by doing a relay or doing a rec solo, and you have other people that are just wanting to do competitive. But it's really hard to train for 80 miles, so not very many people do it.
Now, and you were the first. Were you the first craft altogether? Were you the first surf ski to come across the line? Is that right?
Yeah, I was the first surf ski to come across the line. Some of the relay teams were first because they can switch out, and the dory boat was also first, which they had two of our back-to-back national champion rowers from Delray Beach that just won nationals just a few days ago. So they did that as well, and that thing was like flying. I think they were moving like, I think 11 or 12 miles an hour.
Wow. So for you were in the surf ski. How long did it take you?
The surf ski was I was on a lifeguard spec ski, so it's a 19 feet long, 19 inches across.
No, wait, back up.
Made by
you were in a spec ski? You did the 80
I was in a spec ski. Yeah, 80 miles on a lifeguard spec ski. And it was on a fin, and it took me 13 hours, 54 minutes to do the crossing. Unfortunately, due to bad weather, I did have to go on the boat, and they had to reposition me into a different spot, just because there's here in Florida, as you know, about the squall lines that come up, and it was like wind blowing between 20 to 30 miles an hour. And so we had to reposition, and I ended up finishing at 76 miles, not 80 like I really wanted to, but sometimes that's just how it happens. I didn't really want to, but my captain told me that I needed to get in the boat or I was going to be disqualified. So I didn't get the beach to beach that I really wanted to. So I left Bimini and then don't touch anything or anyone until I made it on the mainland of Florida. But the whole point of doing the paddle is to bring awareness for the cause for cystic fibrosis, and I had to put my ego aside and realize that even though I was training for 80 miles, I did 76, and that's still pretty cool.
That's pretty close. Yeah, that's pretty close. And speaking of that, raising money for cystic fibrosis, which is the whole point of the event, and I'd encourage everybody who's watching this to go check out the history of the event. It's pretty cool, and there's some great videos. Maybe we'll link to them that are really, really inspiring. But I just read this morning that this year's crossing, it raised almost $750,000. It's like $740,000, a bit more than that. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, they really wanted to raise $1 million, but heck, 700,000 plus to help out people, not only here in United States, but in other parts of the world as well that they're affecting young children who have it, CF, which is I found a very interesting disease that it's only hereditary, and it's only if the mother and father both share the same gene, and that's how they get it. And they found that salt water really helps with that, provide them that you know easing of the lungs and stuff like that. And they have so much new medication now to help people to live somewhat of a normal life.
Oh, that's great. That's it's something that until somebody contacted me about helping them train for that a couple of years ago, and about writing up a plan and kind of helping them develop a training plan for it. And I had never really, I didn't know much about cystic fibrosis until then, but what a great event and what a great cause. So let's circle back.
Yeah,
So you
for
spent
sure.
over 13 hours in the ski crossing, which just
Yeah,
blows my mind.
yeah.
I did a paddle, or I went to pick up a boat in Tennessee and did a race, and it turned out to be because of for various equipment issues, it took almost 4 hours, and I was pretty much ready to get out of the boat. I'll tell you. So, how do you train? How did you train for an event? Did you do specific training for this event for 80 miles?
I did. I did. We have a paddle group up in Tampa called the Surfski Foundation,
Yeah, with
and they do
Omar.
clinics. Michael, with Omar, and they actually had Michael Booth, 3-time, world champion, and I think he's 6-time world champion SUP, and he helped me with my technique to get better because I already had a solid foundation. I just needed some better work on technique, having my hand up higher, to use my leg drive, to use more of my back, so I'm not using other accessory muscles like you see a lot of paddlers do, using their arms more than using their back and using those larger muscles, so you don't get fatigued so much and you create more power. So um, I did a couple classes with them. I also did a lot of speed work. I think interval training is very important for even something as long distance as 80 miles. And then also on my days off from working the tower, I would also, paddle between 24 to 25, even 30 miles in one day just to see what I would need nutrition wise. I would paddle in all different types of conditions from flat to super windy because I just didn't know what to expect.
I'm still kind of hung up on the fact that you did that in a club ski on a spec ski. That's yeah, that's really amazing. I think probably one thing that's helped you, I guess, when people talk about fitness, how do I get my fitness for this race? I'm guessing with you, with your job, the work you do, a key component has been that you just stay fit. That's just part of your job. It's part of what you do to do your job well. And so that probably, it sounds like you had a really good base going into your training. And did you do back-to-back days? Like you said you went out and did long days. Did you try to stack your mileage by doing back-to-back days, like a Saturday, Sunday, like 2 long paddles, or did you find that you didn't need to do that?
Yeah, I would go to work early. I would try to knock out 12 miles. I was averaging between 6.2 to 6.4 miles an hour on the clubby, and I would try to try to shoot underneath 2 for 12 miles because I had to, get ready to shower and change and get ready to sit tower to, help anybody that might be in distress that day or respond to a 911 emergency. And after work, I'll try to do another, but I usually tend to do speed work afterwards because after working 8 hours, I'm kind of a little fatigued. So I just pretty much stay out there for another hour and I'll just try to do interval training. I'm always self-aware about trying to work on my technique because I always felt like that was my weakest. Because sometimes when I get tired, I tend to drop my hands more. Michael Booth says I drop my head a lot. So when I start dropping my head, that's when I start losing my form. So.
And did you, I mean, clearly you paddled 13 hours, 80 miles. How much of a factor was fatigue during the actual crossing?
Um, the furthest I've ever paddled was prone paddling. It was 56 miles prone paddling. So I knew where my body would be at 56 miles. But after that, I was in no man's territory where I'd never been that fatigued before. I was trying to be very self-conscious about my calorie intake. I like when I was doing the Catalina or Malachi crossing prone, I would try to keep my calorie intake around 450 calories. So I was really important about hydration. I'm a big fan of liquid IV. It does have a little bit more sugar than some of the hydration drinks, but I was craving the sugar, and I really needed that. Every 10 miles, I would have a can of small Coca-Cola, and I particularly like it when it's flat, so I don't get like burpy or gassy a little bit. That was kind of like my, hey, you did it, 10 miles done. Now you get to have a little treat.
Oh, that's a good goal. Good
I'm
call.
also, yeah, so I like that. I'm also a big fan of like beef jerky just because of I need the protein and the salt. I really like that. It kind of keeps your mouth kind of like just chewing on something. So I didn't do it with any music or anything. Just because I just wanted to be focused on what I was trying to accomplish for myself.
Just you and the ski. Did you have to
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds like your nutrition, I'm gonna guess that's probably something you've worked out through the years of racing prone and doing other racing. Because I'm hearing what you did and I'm thinking, oh man, that would tear me up, like the jerky but I think I mean, what I found is that whatever your nutrition plan is, if you train for your nutrition just like you do for the paddle. Like you have to train your body to
Exactly.
process
Yeah.
those calories. How did you figure out 450 calories was your level? Just through experience, trial and error?
Uh, uh, just through my experience, and I talked to a lot of prone paddlers since I've been doing, these crossings for like over 20 years. And I'm doing the Catalina and Malachi, and now the crossing for cystic fibrosis. Um, I just learned a lot of stuff from like, Joe Bark. Um, you know, there's a lot of local guys around here that do triathlons that would try to tell me, hey, try this, try that. So during my paddles of long distance to moderate distance, I would try different things just to see if I like them or not. Like having goo packs. I tend to not like goo packs because I feel like they're just too thick for me. I don't like the taste of them. Even those little waffle cake things, they look good, but
Little stingers.
my body just didn't agree with them. Yeah. Yeah. So I always tell people, no, do what you feel comfortable with just because that's what your body knows. And for me, 450 calories I felt like was the perfect dose for me just because of my body weight. I'm not a very, big guy. I do a lot of calisthenics, so I'm kind of a little more slender looking than most. And I just knew that if I did anything over 450 calories, I was worried about my metabolism coming into a factor and then wasted energy going towards breaking down food versus, using it to help pull me through the water and just keep on moving and keep on telling myself like you gotta keep moving, you have this such amount of mileage before you can get a little treat, you know what I mean? So I did have Skittles with me. That was kind of like my a little bump because I just needed that sugar just to
Yeah.
get me through it.
Wow. And what is your body weight?
I'm 186 right now. I actually ended up like 10 pounds right afterwards because I was on a really strict diet. I would try to eat like high fibers, high in protein. So I really kind of leaned up a lot. But I was at 180, 180 during the paddle. Now I'm at like 186,
Okay.
187, depending. I fluctuate a little bit there. But 180 was probably, I was pretty close to my high school weight. I was like 178 in high school, and that was 21 years ago. So
Yeah, that's pretty good. But yeah, it sounds like the active
yeah.
lifestyle that you've got and all the crossings that you've done and just staying active and doing your competition sounds like that's worked pretty well for you. It's
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah. So what was your favorite? I'm going to ask you favorite part, worst part of a crossing of that crossing. What was the worst part? Go ahead and dive into that. Was there anything on there that you were just like, oh, this sucks? Because I would have been doing that from about mile
There's a
20
couple.
on. I would have been like, oh, this sucks. But you may have had something more.
I think yeah, the hard part was paddling at nighttime. We left Bimini. I was on heat or wave E Echo, and so it's kind of like in the middle of the pack. And it was like 12:30 when we left the island, so it was pitch black. The boat I had didn't have like a lot of lights. And we also had like a little bit of a low pressure system off of Bimini, so there was a little bit of a wave action that the boat was kind of going through. So it was really hard to predict when the waves would come at you. So I went out too slow. I was averaging like maybe 4.5 miles an hour because I couldn't dictate when the waves were coming and which way they were coming from. And I didn't want to have too much light on me because I didn't want to track, a lot of, marine life around me because I've done paddles at night before, but when I have a lot of light, you kind of track a lot more other animals that you don't want there with you. So
Well, it's a known fact that when it's dark, there are a lot more bigger animals around you. At least in my mind, that's what I've always, it's a if I can't
yeah,
see, there's something big right there, right out beyond me. So, yeah, that's probably wise. And then, so you guys,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
and then you had. It sounds like you probably had what you probably had almost what 4 or 5 hours of just paddling in pitch blackness. Did that get
Uh, yeah,
did
yeah. It was about six,
like I mean at what point were you able to start seeing what was going on around you?
around like 5:45, you can start seeing like the sun somewhat starting to come up a little bit. Around 6:30, the sun was starting to poke its head even further up in the sky. And, at that point, I was with the boat captain. I think it was like 32 miles in already. And it was just the most beautiful sunrise I've ever seen in my life. You look around and there's nobody around you, there's no land anywhere. You can't see Bimini and you can't see Florida. And it is by far like the water is the bluest I've ever seen it. I mean, it almost looked like I hate to be religious a little bit, but it was almost like what heaven would be like with the pearly gates and the clouds and the sky and the colors and the water. It was just unbelievable. And there was a pile of dolphin that popped up for early morning breakfast. But um, the only thing that did happen during the nighttime is that a lot of the flying fish would come up, and some of the people were telling us that while you're paddling you could get hit by a flying fish because they see the light on the boat and they think it's the moon. So I did take a couple to the head on my lifeguard jacket, and some of them were landing on my surf ski that I had to like push out. And when one of them did hit me, I got distracted and I rolled the ski.
Ah,
So I was just like, dang it. And I lost my water bottle, and then I had to flip the ski back over. And I asked the captain, like, how deep are we? And he goes, oh, we're about like a mile and a half deep. That's how the bottom is at. And I was like, oh man, I better climb back in this ski because it's around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And
oh
so
yeah.
it's still pretty dark around. So I want to like, just
Also a
grab
known
my
fact.
water bottle and get back in.
Yeah, it's also a known fact that the deeper the water that you're in, the more big things that can eat you are there too. So that's, if I roll my ski, a quarter mile off the beach, it's not nearly as scary as doing it 2 miles off the beach because I'm sure something's going to eat me when I'm that far out. So yeah, I can't imagine like where you were. going for an involuntary swim. But yeah, that is pretty cool though. Not many people can say they've been bombarded by flying fish in the middle of the night in the middle of the ocean. So, yeah, it's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, it just hit me right in the head right here. I wasn't expecting it. And I looked down and there was like a foot long fish in my ski, and I was just like, ah, man, that really hurt.
That's funny. What so one obvious question: anybody who's paddled any time in a surf ski is going to be wondering this: what shorts did you wear? Are you just wearing boardies? Were you wearing specific?
Uh, I was wearing Pacific shorts that had a padding in it.
Okay.
Just because I tried different ones. I tried board shorts. I tried jammers. But I found out the ones that you find on like oceanpaddler.com, where they have these shorts that have built-in pad in it, like somewhat similar like what you do on riding a bike.
Yeah.
That pretty much saved my life, because during training I would wear out my tailbone, and I have a massive scar there just by,
Right.
the leg driving and turning, and just putting a lot of hours on the ski, that I had like a permanent like scab on my tailbone area.
Yeah.
But the padding that I got was perfect. Uh, it was awesome. It made it a little more comfortable for the long paddle over. But mentally, I was already prepared to be in the seat for a long time. So mentally, I was already there. And most of these paddles are all, it's not all your physical ability. It's 100% mental for sure.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. Like at any point where you did, because you're solo, except I mean you do have your support boat there, right? Yeah. I mean, did it ever? I
Yes.
mean, mentally, did you ever start to lose it mentally, or did you stay pretty fresh all the way through?
I would say pretty fresh all the way through. I mean, the captain had his wife and son on board, so we would chit chat. You might run into another paddler that's coming next to you during the when the sun gets up. Sometimes you might talk to them a little bit. But they had music playing on the boat, and they are constantly checking up on you. And every 2 hours, I would ask for hydration, or if we hit 10 miles, I would ask for my like sweet care package,
I
which
want,
was like
yeah,
a flat
I want my flat
Coca-Cola,
coat.
just
Yeah.
pounded through. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so it
But
was pretty much
I
that.
try to
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I try to stay away from those energy drinks, just because I'm just worried about the crash. I'd rather have a consistent like all the way through, and plus caffeine. I know some guys use it, but it's definitely it really helps from keeping you dehydrated more than hydration. So I was
Mhm.
trying to keep hydrated most of the time.
Yeah. And so you were getting your supplies from your support boat. It's not like you had to carry 80 miles worth of nutrition and hydration with you, right? I mean, it was
Yeah,
only,
correct. I mean, I might. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, my life jacket does have a camel pack in the back, and I had some goodies in my chest that I would just grab out, and so that I didn't want to have to be stopping every hour. They'll be like, "Hey, can I need some more water?" And so I could go for a couple hours, and you kind of work that out with your safety crew and the captain of the vessel, like what do you expect and what do you need, and I just told him like, "Hey, I'm pretty much solid for 4 hours, because during my training, on my long days, I'll be out there for 4 or 5 hours, paddling around."
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like a really cool event. Here's a big question though. Would you do it again?
I would actually, I would. Looking back on it, it was very painful. My back was, I was pretty much like out for the count for a couple of days. But I have two young children, so I have to man up, put some Tiger Balm on my back, and just keep going. But after looking back on it, I would do it again. I was actually thinking maybe doing a prone, you know what I mean? Because the current does help. The Gulfstream current does help. So there's moments on the ski I was averaging almost like 11 miles an hour in the middle of the crossing, just catching small little bumps, and with the clubby ski, the lifeguard spec skis are typically made to catch, surf. So any little bump I got, I would just take it all for its worth, and so I would just tear up that little wave.
Well, now I just feel like we can't even, all the advice and stuff you've given us now that you're saying you're going to do it on a prone, everybody's just going to know that you're insane, and that we just have to ignore everything that you've said. I have exactly 1 mile in on a prone board, and that was enough. I was like, okay, well, that was good. That was a good demo. But yeah, my hat's off to you if you do it on my hat's off to you for doing it anyway. But doing it on the prone board sounds crazy to me. But it's you got to take on new challenges, right?
Exactly. Yeah, a couple of my buddies, AJ Miller and Derek Brown, did it, and prone on relay, and so did my buddy Roman. They actually won the prone division on a 12-foot stock board, and from Deerfield, and I mean, they're unreal. They're going extremely fast, and I was doing a solo, but they were moving pretty fast on a 12-foot board, so they got done a lot quicker. But I was pretty much in awe because how fast they were moving too. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I'm pretty much in awe of all you guys because that's a huge event. That's it's a great event to do. It's a fantastic challenge to kind of check off and put into your bucket list. So it's yeah, my hat's off to you guys. So you would do it again. I think clearly it sounds like you would recommend that other people look into doing it as well. And definitely it's for a great cause. So it's definitely something that I know a number of people who've done it.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that I may put on my bucket list one day, but 80 miles seems like a long ways to go. But it's cool. It sounds like we have a lot of people who watch this channel, and they do, like, a lot of people do Chowjack. A lot of people are looking, which is a 32-mile paddle in Tennessee. I did a 24-miler last weekend in Knoxville. Tennessee's got such a great paddling community. And they're all like the Catalina Crossing is another opportunity for people who want to do something long. I think there are several up in the Northeast that are good opportunities. So it sounds like there are lots of opportunities for people to kind of go out and do these bucket list paddles like you've done, and maybe train themselves to use some of the tips that you've used today. So I appreciate you sharing that with us.